Hey screen printers, Adrienne here with Max Hellman, co-owner and head of business development and on-site activations at Family Industries in LA and screen printing editorial advisory board member. Say hi, Max.
How's it going? What's going on?
Thanks for joining me today.
Of course.
So in the February-March issue, we highlighted Family Industries and their success in live printing. Definitely fair to say a lot has changed since the last time we spoke. The pandemic has shut down the majority of in-person events since March, and we're probably looking at next spring or summer before things start to get back to the new normal. So when we did speak earlier this year, you said live printing takes up 50 to sometimes 75% of your business. Can you talk about what business has looked like since March? How has Family Industries pivoted in all this?
Yeah, well, maybe the magazine was to blame because we did it, and then it just like turned into it. No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, what a time. It was funny funny in a different sense, but that it came out like right before everything went down. So our business changed, dramatically, with, the same as everybody else's in those first few months after people kind of didn't know what was going to happen when, stay-at-home orders were issued and things like that. We kind of had to go the route of, furloughing a couple employees, kind of waiting for the different loans to come through, and just didn't really have a sense of what was going to happen in the coming months because originally, it was like, let's wait 2 weeks, numbers in 2 weeks. That was the big term then, was like, wait 2 weeks to see. So I think people anticipated it being over in June, maybe, something like that. So, you can only forecast out a certain amount. And, for us, we decided, hey, let's focus on later in the year. We still had events booked at the music festivals, but one by one, those slowly started, going under, and conventions and conferences and the same thing like that. So we kept our focus on our in-house printing, and that kept things going. And we also took the time to move into our new facility that we had been building for the last 2 years, which actually gave us a break to do it correctly. So that was, part of the process as well.
Sure, yeah, a little bit of a silver lining to have some time to actually do that the right way. I know a lot of other screen printers found some of that downtime and maybe fix some marketing or social media or some other things that they just hadn't got to. So congrats on the move.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it was nice to have that, like you said, as a silver lining for the year. But being in here now has made us way more efficient than we've ever been before. So that definitely helps. So we're looking forward to being here for, the future and time to come. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there was a lot more in-house printing, and that you were offering maybe some PPE, so face masks, gaiters. What kind of percentage of your business then switched to that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because initially there was no face masks out, so they didn't have the guidelines, and there was kind of like this wild west of like, hey, all these businesses need face masks, but you couldn't get any face masks. One advantage we have is in LA, we have a lot of partners who do cut and sew, and there was a lot of smaller companies who were cutting and sewing face masks, maybe didn't have the proper channels to distribute to other printers. So we actually connected some of the other print shops across the country with some of the cut and sew suppliers here. And I think there's probably about 100,000 masks that we connected with other printers, with Printed Threads or Barrel Maker out of Chicago. Campus Ink needed some as well. So they were able to use some of the facilities out here to help with that initial batch before Bell Canvas and Next Level and Bayside and whoever else was making masks came into the game. So that was kind of the wild west when everybody needed masks, and then it became really ubiquitous, where there were too many masks and not enough shirts in stock. So now it flipped, and we're kind of still in that same place where shirt stock is low. But we've done a good amount of masks. I'd probably estimate somewhere between 50 to 75,000 total. Between the different clients and things like that. We still do some here and there, but it's definitely not a main driver of our business.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, personally, it's like I've bought the masks that I need that I can wash. I'm probably not going to buy any in the time, anytime soon. But yeah, it's cool to hear the partnerships that have happened across the country between the different screen printers. It's nice to see that everyone kind of had each other's back and were collaborators instead of competitors during the time.
Yeah, we had I think everybody was on the same page. They just didn't know. So people were sharing things like, "Hey, we've been going down this, this trajectory. It's worked for us. It may work for you guys. Hey, can somebody help us with this?" And it's been cool to talk to other business owners just to get a sense and be like, "Hey, we're all in this in the same place. Yeah, we may have competition at some point, but we're in different markets, and you just have to kind of prop up the industry as a whole because otherwise it could crash."
Right. So obviously you had a lot of live events scheduled for this year. You mentioned some concerts, trade shows. Did any of those move to virtual events? And did you do any printing or any special applications for those now online events?
Yeah, so it was funny because like right as all of the stay-at-home orders were implemented, we still had a few events that actually ended up happening and going through. And I think we were on site till the end of March, which I think a lot of people had shut down, cities or had recommended not to go out at that point. Um, and we had been playing with the idea for a long time of kind of virtual customization to help clients save money when they couldn't bring in a full on-site customization, activation to their event. Because sometimes when you have, 4 staff and you have to bring in all of this gear and shipping and logistics and travel, whatever goes into it. So if you were trying to save money, we had always thought about, just having tablets on site at a booth. People could customize their item and have it sent to them afterwards. So it's always been something that we've had like developed, but we never really deployed. So we finished kind of our in-house infrastructure of how we can make it happen on a bigger scale, and we put together the basics of a single one page for our clients, kind of like a marketing deck, so that they could see kind of like what the benefits would be. And we sent out a newsletter to our top tier clients, and nothing happened immediately because nobody knew, again, how long this was going to go on for. So events hadn't been canceled yet. Music festivals are still happening. Things were still happening in September and October. So nobody kind of jumped on it right away. But once people realized, hey, this is here to stay for a bit longer, that's when we started getting some feedback from companies like Amazon or some of the other music festivals that went virtual, Lollapalooza, our partnership with Toyota, and some of the other tech companies that we work with. They started to all hop on board, and we were able to do, I think we've done 25 or 30 virtual events for the year, which isn't, a lot compared to our usual on-site customization, but some of them had really healthy budgets that we were able to work with, 10 to 15,000 items per event. It was definitely a logistical nightmare in some senses, trying to figure it out in-house, but we made it work, and everything's been successful with it thus far. So it's been a good learning experience, I'd say.
Yeah. So I'm just off the top of my head thinking that maybe the virtual Lollapalooza, they would send everyone who was supposed to be there maybe a free shirt, or maybe talk about some examples there that what exactly you were printing and how that was getting to the virtual attendee.
So I'll use one. Yeah. So for example, with Lollapalooza or Bonnaroo, Toyota is an official sponsor, and every year they're on site and they have their own stage, and they have tons of branding all over the festival. So when they lose that branding or being in front of that many new people with their new vehicles and things like that, which is their target demographic, they have a specific car in mind for these, or truck for these events. Excuse me. They need to make up for that lost, introduction time to their newest offerings. So what they did is on the actual website itself. So if you went to, the Bonnaroo website or the Lollapalooza website, you could scroll down and it would say, Toyota's sponsoring a free bandana, customized bandana for all of the virtual event attendees, first come, first served basis. For Bonnaroo, it was a custom blanket. So it was a full sublimated blanket that they could customize and then get sent out to them. Or, Comic-Con with Amazon. We did a bunch of stuff for the show, The Boys. So people could still go and customize these items. We would then connect it with our shipping software and our back-end moderation tool, where we were able to then compile all the information, customize each item, put it into a shipping bag, and then ship it out to these people. And everybody would get these items, and it's similar to what you'd have on site, but done with a virtual kind of lens.
Yeah, and the customization just adds another element to it, especially those are, how many people were you sending those to?
So Amazon for Comic-Con, I believe, was over 10,000 people. And it was so popular, they had to limit the time. Like we'd be open for an hour and they would get 2,500 orders within an hour, and then we had to fulfill those. The Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza stuff, I think they're about 2,500 pieces and 1,000 pieces, depending upon which of the two events we're talking about. And then there were some other tech events that we worked where they wanted 350 for their top tier, clients that they wanted to bring in to, demo their software or something like that. So there's been a really big variety of who we've worked with on with these, but the end goal is the same. It's to engage their audience and still give them kind of a feeling of being on site, because I'm sure like we were talking about, you have kind of like a fatigue of so much digital, Zoom meetings and whatever else it is. Like they need to have something physical in their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you done actually any in-person live printing at all, even social distanced or in safe spaces?
No, we kind of made the decision to wait. We had a couple of the managers here, and we just kind of all talked about it. We don't feel the need to put anybody at risk on site. And even with protection, whatever it is, it's like, it's just, we'd rather just hold off until the time is right. Like, even if we've had a couple where they want us to come on site, and we just tell them, like, it's going to cost a lot more. Why don't you go to somebody who's going to charge you less for these? If they want to go on site and do it for that amount, that's fine with us. We're not in any rush to get back on for these, like, the lower budget events that they want us to come out for. So we're still kind of sticking to the virtual event until, things kind of come back into play. And I think they will. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but for now, we're not too pressed on getting out there just to get out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good for your business. And the risk definitely isn't worth it, it seems. So when you're working with these clients, you probably already have a relationship with them. Are you suggesting the blanket, or is that something that they are like, I have this in mind, this is what's going to happen, and we're going with it?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what they've formulated. We'll put together kind of like a list of items that may or may not work for an event, and customizing depending upon, if they want to do sublimation, if they want to do screen printing. Some of our offerings on our app would be like a drag and drop style customization. So, they can layer things and build out an entire artboard. And there's others that they just get to choose between, 6 or 8 designs, choose their shirt, choose the placement, where it would be screen printed. So we kind of give them, a couple items that would work for that specific offering, and then we kind of build out the program from there.
Okay. What's the number one item that you've printed?
It's always going to be, shirts and totes. Again, those blankets went within like a minute of being up. I think that Bonnaroo posted them on their Instagram, and the comments immediately were like, it's sold out already. And it's like 1 minute in, like people had just gone and got these blankets. The blankets would sell for, like $75. So to have them give away was like a huge thing, but it also made people mad because they couldn't get it. But at the same time, it's like, you can only make a certain amount of people happy at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully they can bring those blankets to next year's event or a 2022 event. Yeah,
they're really cool. They're really, really nice. Like, I was surprised that they had decided that's what they wanted to go with. But, I understand there's a marketing budget in place, and because of everything else that's happened, they probably still have to put some marketing budget towards these items. And since they're not spending all of that money to be on site, they say, hey, we can spend the money to do this. So
Right. Yeah. There's some like allocating of funds there that makes sense.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit
Gotta
about,
spend the money. They
right.
gotta spend the money, or else it's tax
Right.
write-offs, things like that happen for the year. So.
Absolutely. And to really keep their clients engaged too,
Yep, exactly.
because everyone's bummed about every event being canceled this year. So any kind of, feeling like you're there, feeling like you're part of a community, or maybe you didn't waste your money. I know some events weren't able to give like full refunds. So giving some kind of gift is helpful.
Yeah. Then we actually had a couple of events where people, they brought us in to do the customization and the gifting for the event. And the virtual event just did not have the same type of engagement. So they thought, hey, we're going to have 1,000 people. Let's budget out for everything. And then I think 100 people had come through. Like they were just waiting for it to come through. And luckily with tiered pricing where you're not going to be on site, you can kind of rein things a little bit because you can, order based on what came through. But, if that happened on site, you have all the travel and logistics that go into the costs. So, for them, they're able to say, okay, we didn't lose a bunch of money, on the on-site customization aspect where, the people just weren't engaging with the entire virtual event.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, speaking of Zoom fatigue, again, maybe I feel like it's different when you have a flight booked and a hotel booked, you're going to go to the event most likely. When you just have it on your calendar and it comes up and you're busy doing other things, maybe you're not going to go. And we talked about Zoom fatigue, things like that. Do you think people are, used to these virtual events, and the people who really hated the travel are going to be like, this is fine? Or do you think they'll be clamoring to get back into in-person events? And when do you think you'll be live printing again?
I 100% think that people are ready to go and will be back on site at events. Like whenever things are cleared, whether it's through vaccines and, the springtime seasonality of things that kind of help with everything as we stand right now. And, they can clear these larger events. I think people will be there. I mean, you can already see whether it's, the protests that have happened this year, on both sides of the coin, whether it's people want to gather and be in the same space. So being away from other people, I think has definitely made people realize, hey, I want to be on site at these events even more than ever. And there's probably a few people who'd rather just stay home and not go to them. But I feel like the live printing, I feel like summer of 2021, I feel it's like going to be like a big kind of like a comeback for events and different things like that.
Yeah, I hope so. Something to look forward to.
I know, absolutely. Just traveling in general. I mean, just getting out there and kind of seeing different things again and
For sure.
kind of getting back to some normal way of life.
Absolutely. So do you have any tips for anyone watching this, any of our screen printing audience members who were used to doing live printing, but they maybe hadn't thought of still working with those clients to do some kind of, virtual event, or any tips for people kind of going through the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, we also made a big pivot, and credit to our sales team over here has done an incredible job to doing gifting boxes for some of our clients. With some larger tech companies and some of these other clients that we work with. I mean, we've sent out close to, I think, 25,000 or so different boxes to their their own creators and people within their companies, and to their clients, whatever it may be. We've kind of taken a portion of what on-site customization would be, customize their boxes, and then send them out. So it's similar to the virtual event customization. It doesn't have the same customization interface, but the idea is the same. And I know there's some other companies who do something similar to that. But it was a really good pivot for us. And overall for the year, our in-house printing has been bigger this year than we've ever had before, by a pretty decent margin. Still not having the live customization aspect is a hit, but because the way the in-house printing side and the in-house customization and kind of like our merch agency side of things has like really grown, the hit isn't really all that big at all. It's actually, surprisingly, we're in a better place, than I thought we would be at the start of the year. And we've hired everybody back who, initially had to be kind of furloughed. And we actually have a couple additional employees at this point. So we're starting the year or ending the year with more people than we started with.
I bet you wouldn't have thought that in March.
Yeah, no, I had no idea what was going to happen in March. Again, wait 2 weeks is what it was. That's what it kind of felt like for a couple months.
Yeah, I think that a lot of businesses in the print industry, just because they're essential and a lot of things were needed, even the fun stuff was needed. So it was good for printers this year, and I've seen a lot of people come out on top, which is a good thing. Just curious, out of the gift boxes, I love that. What are some top things that you're printing and putting in those boxes?
Let me see. I have a rack over there. Let's see. There's water bottles, mugs, oil diffusers, hats, notebooks, blankets. I'm just looking at our rack of fun stuff over there. Custom socks, bandanas, stickers, like dop kits for bathroom bags. It just really depends. There's like pens and things like that. So there's some promo items, there's some in-house printed items, just kind of putting things together depending upon what the client wants, So if they have specific things they're looking for, we've done custom like jean jackets that have just like pins and embroidery and screen printing on the back, and jerseys. Just there's been a ton of it's crazy asks, but we can do it this year. It's been a fun kind of thing to see happen, just with the investment into that from these clients. It's been cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Seems like the possibilities are endless for the things that can go.
Yeah, I feel like, and especially this year, I feel like companies who have just like a little bit of innovation, or have an ability to kind of think outside the box and pivot their business a little bit, have been able to kind of like weather the storm a bit more. The first few months of next year are going to be interesting, just seeing if people are going to kind of hold off and see where things are going to be, just for the entire industry, because so many printers rely on events, whether they're in person, they do live printing, or they're just doing printing in their shop because, a printer in the Midwest in a small town may be printing for, marathons and school events and things that happen that just aren't happening right now. So having those back will help their business as well. So as long as there's going to be able to weather the storm a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I think the year of 2020 isn't pandemic, it's pivot.
Yeah.
What everyone has had to do personally and professionally.
Yeah, and some of the event agencies that we work with are that we do on-site customization with, they're kind of the in-between the bigger client, like the Toyotas or, these other top tier companies, and the event agency who puts on the events, and then they bring us in. Some of those event agencies have had a rough year too because they don't have a digital marketing arm. Whereas, some of these other agencies had a digital marketing arm, and they were able to still keep the business of the bigger companies because they were able to pivot to the digital marketing. So the on-site experiential agencies have had a rough go of it. But again, if they could pivot to the digital side, they were able to kind of, come together a little bit more. And that's where I feel like we were able to help some of the traditional agencies kind of bring them into the fold with some of the on-site customers or the virtual customization, so they can offer that as something to, give their client that extra, item for their customers.
Right. Absolutely. And they have you to turn to. So very cool. All right. Well, any last minute tips or notes from the last 8-9 months?
No, I just keep thinking. I think you just got to keep thinking of new ways to like we said, pivot the business or be a little bit different than the other shop or company down the street. Just think of ways to differentiate yourself, and I think that will help.
For sure. Yeah. Find your differentiator. Definitely a great thing to do. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, thanks,
All right.
Matt.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you taking the time to share your insight with the Screen Printing audience. For those watching, you can find the article on family industries in the February-March issue of Screen Printing and on screenweb.com. And you can find Max, his team, and their work on Instagram at Family Industries. All right, cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
See ya.
All right.